Well. I genuinely starting to think that the royal family will not rest until something happens to Harry and his family. It has just been revealed, which we all knew anyway, that Harry receives elevated risk from terror plots when in the UK, way more than when they're in America. Essentially what's happened, I think, I work in PR, and this reporter has said that ITV has seen this report. So essentially, I think that his team or his communications team have literally handed this report to different aspects of UK press. So, like, I think that Chris Shipp, even though he's on the Royal Rota and he's not necessarily pro Meghan and Harry, he sometimes does cut them slack, and sometimes he does report in a sort of objective manner. So they've obviously chosen the journalist that they're giving this to, and he's one of them, where they've kind of said, here's the proof of how much risk we get when we come to the UK and why I need the level of security that I need. Harry and his team have basically given this to press, so to be like, guys, I'm not even playing, this is no joke. The reason I'm kicking off such a fuss about having the highest level of security, which even though it's the taxpayers funded one, I will pay. Instead of the taxpayers paying for that level of security, I will pay. But I want that security because we have the highest risk of terror attacks if I come to the UK. And yet still, royal family, Met Police, all dragging their leg, putting Harry through it and still saying no. I think what we forget is he's no longer working royal. Right, absolutely. He should not be there should be no amount of taxpayers' money that Harry or any of his family, Meghan, the kids, should be living off at all, because they're no longer working royals. Agreed. And people think like all the Meghan and Harry stans don't agree with this. We all agree with this. We absolutely agree with this. And that's what they've done. However, when he's saying, and this has been for years now, where he said, listen, I know that the level of security that my family gets is essentially coming from the taxpayers. But I know because of all the intelligence and everything that this level of security does, my security team, as great as they are, can't provide that level of intelligence and know-how because they're not directly linked to, MI5 and like literally the top of police. So can I just pay, even though this is taxpayers' money that usually pays for this, can I just, out of my own pocket, pay for it as long as I get that level of security? That's essentially what he's been arguing about for the last 2.5, 3 years. And yet to this day, they're still saying no, even though Taylor Swift gets that level of security when she comes to the UK. Anyway, I digress. So now it looks like Meghan and the kids probably won't be escorting Harry to the UK. And I have a feeling that there's a few members of the royal family that are really happy about that. It's one thing when Harry comes and overshadows them and their stories and their news agenda rosters and whatever they're doing. It's one thing when Harry does it. They know damn well that when Meghan brings the kids, that whatever they've got in the press for that week, they might as well throw it out because everyone's going to be writing about Harry, Meghan and the kids. So it wouldn't surprise me if members of the royal family have done everything in their power to stop Harry from getting this level of security. And if people are going to say, oh, they've got nothing to do with it, I'm sorry. The King of England, who's head of state, who the Met Police and the police and MI5 and all these people have this level of security for, have created this level of security for, he has no say in giving that same security to his son. Okay. And what I'll finally say is, regardless of whether, let's say you hate Meghan and Harry, let's say you really dislike them, you call them the Markles, and there's too much, and they ask for privacy and all this. Let's just say you are a real Meghan and Harry hater. What is so wrong about 6 years later, Harry wanting to come back to the country of his birth to do his philanthropic project and to maybe see his dad privately? This isn't anything to do with public. It's got nothing to do with the public. See his dad privately, who's been ill, to try and mend that relationship with his dad, and want security because he's at the highest risk of terrorists. Like, why would you begrudge him of that? Regardless of how much you feel for him, how much you hate him, why would you be so bitter and so much hatred for him that you don't want him to have the level of security that his dad, who by the way is the King of England, has when he visits the UK? He's not asking for it full time. He's asking for it for the week to 10 days or even less that he's here in the UK. Why begrudge him of that? Really think about that. All the people who were crying for weeks and weeks when Princess Diana died, but were probably the same people that were calling her a hoe and this, that, and the other when she left the royal family. Just have that thought. What do you guys think?
Squaddies, let me ask you something. Have you ever watched a video that was only a few seconds long, but somehow it started an argument that lasted all week? Because that's exactly what happened here. One short clip, that's all it took. Prince Harry walks out of a parking garage in New York. You see the SUVs, you see the security team. Everything looks organized, calm, professional. And before Harry's car probably reached the next traffic light, boom, the internet was already arguing. Now here's what cracked me up. People have spent years reading court papers, listening to legal experts, and arguing over security arrangements. Thousands of words, endless headlines, hours of television debates. Then along comes one 30-second video, and suddenly everybody's talking about Harry's security again. That's the power of seeing something with your own eyes. You can ignore a headline, you can scroll past an article, but a video makes people stop. It makes people replay it. It makes people ask questions. And the biggest question was obvious. If Harry can have what looks like a well-coordinated security operation in New York, why does security become such a massive fight every time the conversation turns to Britain? That's the question people started asking all over again. Now, before somebody jumps into the comments, let's be clear. None of us was sitting in those security planning meetings. We don't know every detail, we don't know every threat assessment, and pretending otherwise would be nonsense. But here's what regular people do know. We know what we saw. And sometimes that's enough to get people thinking. Think about your own life. If one restaurant serves you great food every single time, and another keeps getting your order wrong, eventually you're going to ask, what's going on over there? That's human nature. People compare experiences, not because they're trying to start trouble, because they're trying to make sense of what they're seeing. And that's exactly what happened with Harry. The video didn't answer every question, it created more of them. Now here's something else worth talking about. Some critics keep acting like Harry woke up one morning and randomly decided to care about security. Come on, this didn't start yesterday. He's been raising these concerns for years. Court hearings, appeals, public statements, interview after interview. This has been consistent. So when that New York footage appeared, it wasn't a brand new story. It was like somebody hit the replay button on a debate that never really ended. And let's be honest, visuals hit differently. You can read 50 articles saying somebody has security concerns, then you watch one video showing a full professional convoy, and suddenly the conversation feels real. That's why television exists. That's why videos go viral. Seeing beats reading almost every time. Now here's where I think Harry deserves some credit. Despite all the noise, he keeps showing up. Charity events, veterans, public appearances, meetings. He doesn't disappear because people argue online. He keeps moving. And that's probably what frustrates some of his critics the most. They expected the conversation to fade away years ago. Instead, every new appearance reminds people that the questions never really disappeared. At the end of the day, this wasn't just a video of SUVs leaving a Manhattan parking garage. It became something much bigger. A reminder. A reminder that people are still asking whether Harry's concerns have been taken seriously. A reminder that this debate isn't finished. And maybe that's why 30 seconds of footage managed to do what years of headlines couldn't. It got millions of people asking the exact same question. If security looks like this in New York, why is it still such a battle when Harry wants to visit home?
Is the part that always gets left out of the conversation. Some people talk like Harry's security concerns only exist because he's the king's son. Nah, that story's way too simple. Harry isn't just another guy with a famous last name. He's one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. You could drop him in New York, Tokyo, Nairobi, Sydney. People are going to know exactly who he is. That's not something you switch off like airplane mode. And let's not forget something else. Harry didn't spend his life sitting on the sidelines waving from balconies. The man served 10 years in the British Army, 2 tours in Afghanistan. That's part of his life story. He served in war zones that come with real risks. That's just common sense. Here's what makes me laugh though. Some people act like the moment Harry stopped being a working royal, every threat in the world magically disappeared. Really? Did his face suddenly become unrecognizable? Did the newspapers stop writing about him? Did photographers pack up their cameras? Of course not. If anything, Harry and Meghan are still among the most talked about couples on the planet. Every public appearance becomes breaking news. Every speech gets picked apart. Every photograph spreads across social media before they've even gone home. That's not a quiet life, that's global attention. And global attention attracts all kinds of people. Most are harmless, some aren't. That's why security exists in the first place. Now think about this like a regular person. If a famous musician hires security, nobody loses their mind. If a Hollywood actor travels with bodyguards, people shrug and move on. If world leaders arrive with heavy protection, everybody says, well, that makes sense. But Harry, suddenly everybody becomes a security expert. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody thinks they know better than the professionals. It's actually funny when you think about it. Now, am I saying Harry should get everything he asks for? That's not even the point. The point is that taking security seriously shouldn't automatically be treated like some outrageous demand. He's not protecting a gold watch, he's protecting human beings. There's a difference. And let's not ignore what Harry has said over the years. He's spoken publicly about receiving threats. He's explained why safety remains a major concern whenever he travels. People don't spend years fighting over something they believe doesn't matter, especially when their family is involved. That's where this becomes bigger than royal headlines. Harry isn't only thinking about himself anymore, he's thinking like a husband, like a father. When you've got a wife and 2 young kids, your brain works differently. You stop asking, will I be okay? You start asking, will they be okay? Every parent watching this understands that feeling. You'd rather be called overprotected than spend the rest of your life wishing you'd been more careful. That's just how mums and dads think. Now here's the irony. Harry has spent years helping veterans through the Invictus Games. He's travelled across the world meeting wounded servicemen and women. He stood beside people who sacrificed so much. Yet somehow, when he says security still matters in his own life, some critics act like he's making it all up. Come on, you don't have to agree with Harry on every single issue to recognise one simple fact. He's still one of the world's most recognisable public figures. That reality didn't disappear when he stepped back from royal duties. At the end of the day, this debate isn't just about titles. It's about visibility, it's about risk, and it's about a man whose life has never been ordinary, trying to protect the people who matter most to him. Reality doesn't care about opinion polls, and neither do security risks. He deserves full protection when visiting the UK. Period.
Squatties, let's forget the courtrooms for a minute. Forget the legal language. Forget the endless back and forth. Because at the centre of all this is something a lot simpler. A dad. That's it. Strip away the royal titles, take away the headlines, forget who's a prince and who's not. You've got a husband trying to look after his wife and 2 little kids. And honestly, that's something regular people understand straight away. Harry has said more than once that security is one of the biggest reasons Meghan, Archie and Lilibet don't visit the UK more often. Think about that for a second. This isn't about wanting a fancy convoy just to look important. This isn't about showing off. This is about a father asking himself one question. If I take my family there, can I honestly say they'll be safe? Every parent watching this knows that feeling. You don't gamble with your children's safety, ever. I don't care if you're a prince, a plumber, a teacher, or a taxi driver. When your kids are involved, everything changes. Suddenly you're checking the locks twice, looking over your shoulder, planning every little detail. That's called being a parent. Now here's what gets me.
Some people reduce this whole story to royal protocol. Who gets what, who pays, who qualifies, who doesn't. But Harry isn't talking about a spreadsheet. He's talking about his family. There's a world of difference. Imagine your parents live in another country. You want your children to visit their grandparents. You want them to learn where part of their family comes from. You want them to make memories. Then something keeps making you stop and think, is this the right time? Is this the safest choice? That's not an easy position to be in. No parent wants to make that call. And let's not forget Archie and Lilibet in all of this. These are two young children growing up with roots in both America and Britain. Every parent wants their children to know where they come from, to meet family, to build connections, to hear stories, to create memories they'll carry for the rest of their lives. Harry has spoken about wanting that for his children, but wanting something and feeling confident enough to do it are two different things. That's why this debate refuses to go away. It's not really about palace procedures anymore. It's about family, and family hits differently. Kids don't care about royal politics. They care about mum, dad, feeling safe, running around, playing, being children. That's it. Now here's something else worth thinking about. Harry has travelled all over the world. He's attended charity events, he's supported veterans, he's met world leaders, he's done countless public appearances. Yet when the conversation turns to bringing his wife and children to Britain, security becomes the biggest question. That tells you just how seriously he takes it. You don't spend years raising the same concern if it doesn't matter to you, especially when the people you love most are involved. At the end of the day, I think a lot of parents, whether they're Harry fans or not, understand where he's coming from. Because every mum and dad has had that moment. That moment when you say, I don't care if people think I'm being overprotective. My job is to get my family home safely. That's not weakness. That's love. That's responsibility. And if Harry's biggest concern every time he thinks about bringing Meghan, Archie and Lilibet to Britain is whether he can keep them safe, then this stops being a royal argument. It becomes something much more human. A father trying to do what fathers have always done, protect the people he loves. And honestly, that's something no title in the world can make more important.
Now, squaddies, let's wrap this up because I think a lot of people are looking at the wrong part of the story. This isn't just about bodyguards. It isn't about SUVs. It isn't about how many security officers are standing outside a building. That's the surface. The real issue runs much deeper. It's about trust. And once trust is broken, everything becomes harder. Think about your own life. If someone lets you down once, you might give them another chance. Twice, you're a little more careful. But if it keeps happening, eventually you stop saying, I'm sure it'll be fine. You start saying, I need to see it before I believe it. That's just human nature. And I think that's where Harry is. People keep asking, why won't he just let it go? Because from Harry's point of view, this isn't some old argument he's keeping alive for fun. It's about whether he believes the system will protect the people he loves when they come back to Britain. That's a completely different conversation. Now here's what made that Manhattan video so interesting. It didn't magically create a new problem. The problem was already there. That 30-second clip simply reminded everybody that the questions never went away. Sometimes all it takes is one moment to reopen a conversation people thought had gone quiet. Kind of like when your phone reminds you about an unpaid bill you'd completely forgotten. You thought it was over. Nope, there it is again. That's exactly what happened here. The video wasn't the fire, it was the spark that made everybody notice the smoke again. And let's be honest, if this issue had truly been settled, one short clip wouldn't have sent social media into overdrive. People would have looked at it, shrugged, and moved on. Instead, millions of people started asking the same questions all over again. That tells you something. But here's what nobody can deny. This conversation has refused to disappear. Year after year, court case after court case, headline after headline, it keeps coming back. There's usually a reason for that. Now imagine this from Harry's perspective. If you're constantly wondering whether the people responsible for making these decisions truly understand your concerns, eventually doubt starts creeping in, and doubt changes everything. Because once confidence disappears, every trip becomes another question mark, every visit becomes another risk assessment, every plan comes with another what if. That's exhausting, especially when you've got Meghan, Archie and Lilibet depending on you. A father doesn't get the luxury of saying, let's just hope for the best. Hope isn't a security plan. Preparation is. And that's probably why Harry has kept pushing this issue instead of walking away from it. Not because he enjoys courtrooms. Who enjoys courtrooms? Nobody wakes up thinking, you know what sounds fun today? More legal paperwork. Let's be serious. People fight for things they believe matter. Harry clearly believes this matters. Now, here's the biggest takeaway for me. This story isn't really asking how many security officers Harry should have. It's asking something much bigger. Can trust be rebuilt once it's been damaged? Because without trust, every decision becomes a battle, every conversation becomes an argument, every visit becomes another headline. At the end of the day, that's why this debate refuses to fade away. Not because people are obsessed with counting bodyguards, but because the bigger questions still don't have answers that satisfy everyone. Until that changes, one new video, one public appearance, one trip to Britain is all it'll take for this conversation to start all over again. And judging by everything we've seen so far, I don't think this is the last chapter of Harry's security story. Thank you all for watching. God bless you all. Glad you enjoyed the podcast. I am Miles. Let me know what your thoughts in the comments section. Goodbye.